A couple of weeks ago, I got the opportunity to play Corrales Golf Course in the Dominican Republic, which is an official PGA course. Now, the fun part for me was knowing that the PGA Tour were coming to play here very soon, and I arrived at the shop, grabbed myself some Corrales themed Titleist V1s, which I would inevitably lose, and headed over to the practice range. The range was in pretty good condition and it was set up nicely with plenty to aim at. Thankfully, I was able to hit some nice drives with the clubs that I hired, which can go badly for me when I haven't got my own clubs. I had a few practice putts because I knew that the greens were going to be much faster than what I'm used to back in the UK, but surprisingly they wasn't as fast as I first thought they would be. But I thought I would save the best part of the practice session until last, because it's only right that I share a few shanks with you that I was getting out of my system before finally hitting a few sweet ones. So I made my way back to the first tee near the clubhouse, and you'll notice that the preparation for the arrival of the PGA Tour was already well underway. I also stopped to have a couple more putts on the alternative practice green that they have outside of the clubhouse and much closer to the shoreline. And then it was time to tee up and get going. Hole 1 started with a double bogey and a really scenic shot of the green with the ocean behind. Hole 2 had some water down the left, which to be honest scared me and forced my shot into the bunkers on the right hand side, which I was actually fine with as a high handicapper. The bunkers were not in the best condition as they were almost ready to put fresh sand in them for the PGA Tour week, but I can confidently say that I've played out of much worse bunkers back home. So a few holes passed, and in some windy conditions I was finally able to pick up my first par of the day with some help from my caddy on the 7th, which was a par 5. Moved on to the 8th and recorded the full hole of this par 4, which was hugging the coastline. I teed off with a 4 hybrid and once again kept it to the right hand side to avoid any water. I went so far right that I was actually on the buggy path rather than a bunker, but the next shot went nice and straight, but it did fall short of the green, so I had to chip on, which I slightly overcooked, but at my standards I'm absolutely fine with that. I then admired the scenic coastline whilst my playing partner found his ball, and then 2-putted downhill for a respectable bogey. The par 3 9th was a hole that had me shitting bricks. Look how far right I'm aiming, relevant to the green, and inevitably I found myself in the bunker, but at least I made it over. Another extremely scenic hole to record, and it was just a shame that I didn't have the best bunker shot to match, but nevertheless I got out and onto the green. I overcooked the downhill putt and ended up knocking it in for another bogey on a challenging hole. So after ordering some food at the halfway house, we started the back 9 with a straight but long par 4. I pretty much ignored the wise words of my caddy, thinking I knew better, and ended up getting this putt completely wrong and knocking it in for a double. After failing to record the 13th, where I got my first ever birdie on a PGA course, I was feeling good, but the par 4 15th was a great example of how momentum in golf can turn very quickly. After a respectable tee shot, I fired my approach shot to the right of the green, and then the fun started. and I finally two-putted from off the green for another frustrating double bogey. Corrales was without doubt the most scenic course I've ever played, with so much coastline to look at, and it was extremely well looked after. But this doesn't mean it's easy. Even when you've got a caddy to help, the winds can be extremely challenging. I walked away with a 95, which means I played to my handicap, but a round with a birdie is always a good round.